Yoshioka, a 37-year-old from Kyoto in Japan, who's represented his country in the World Cup of Pool, alongside his favourite player, Naoki Oi.
Yeah, and a lot of people's favorite. Oi, such a fun guy, but one heck of a player as well. Dry break. Figure can't afford many of those. Here now, Josh did have a scare early against another great player from Singapore, Sharik Syed, who actually had Josh on the ropes, 7-5, missed the ball to go up 8-5. And then Josh, who carried that momentum and won that match.
Yeah, Carl Boys was out there watching that match. Basically, Saeed, he miscued, attempting to pop the 8-ball.
And Shark's a guy who's been out here grinding. Another one of those players on the cusp of, you know, making a jump on his game and a move on these points. And of course, eventually, more results in these big events. Difficult rollout here. Probably rolls out to a kick shot. Maybe rolls out a little closer to the 3 where he could kick to the top rail, trying to bang the one down table. Maybe he's a little worried that Masato would take that shot on. Masato coming to the table quickly there. Don't think you can pass this one if you feel like you can get the cue ball down table at all. Yeah. Not real good to leave the opening. Here, when you're like that, you got to say, hey, do I need to roam that just above the 6? I know it's a little scary. You feel like you're going to leave it open and a little closer to the ball, but important to get the snooker. Even though you're leaving separation. Said so many times, these guys will figure out something to do, and he might cut at this. Josh may cut at this ball, trying to come one rail between the 6 and the 4 with the cue ball. Now he's looking at the kick shot. And to be fair, I think Josh has got to get a little used to this type of pool. You know, he's a guy that ran a ton of racks on players, it seemed like, every match when he wins tournaments. And not saying he's not going to be able to run racks, but it's going to be a little different than, you know, how he won events before. I think he left a little gap here maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, more blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah. Well, I kind of talked about it yesterday with FSR. I think he was another one of those players that really put heat on you for that one mistake, because he would back it up with 4 or 5 racks at a time, it seemed. And I think his counterpart, David Alcady, does the same thing. I think both those guys, and there's some of the top guys that got to get a little more used to this type of pool. I'm not saying they can't handle it. It's just a little more between the ears, you might say. Solid here on the 1. Going to surrender a little bit of a look at the 1 ball, but nothing offensive. Probably brings the cue ball up behind the 3 here. You can use the 6 and the 8. You could drop behind the 2. I think that leaves a little easier kick possibly, though. Yeah, this is not a hard kick across the table.
Not been the fluent Joshua Filler, though, we normally expect here. He's only played 2 matches, of course, still getting warmed up. He beat Jeff Kennedy 9-3 first time out. And then, as we say, came back from 7-5 down late on day 1 to beat Sharik Syed 9-7. So, not at his best yet, but building into the tournament. And that's what you've got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we talked about it at the European Open. I think the new break rule kind of will not only lend towards closer matches, but guys like Sharik that are right on that cusp of playing great pool and and having better results. They're getting more time at the table with this break rule, so they're going to get a little more comfortable. And like I said, that one mistake they don't feel like is going to cost them 5 or 6 games.
And the opening to the first rack here is very similar to the opening to the first rack between Ko Pin-Yi and Yuan Chua. Highly tactical.
And for a guy, of course, Josh, I think is a lot better than he used to be the tactical side of the game, and probably doesn't get the credit, but I think it's going to, you know, make his tactical game better and actually get it better quicker under these circumstances we play under now. Cue ball behind the 4 maybe, trying to get the 1 up a little bit. Watch out if the 1 catches the point. You don't want that. That's going to be a little light. A lot light.
We have seen Yoshioka on the main match table quite a few times over the course of the last couple of years. I remember a match he played against Veronika Ivanovskaya, which created a lot of attention. So far here, had 2 tough battles, beat Johnny Salas 9-7 and then Demetrius Lukatis 9-6.
Looks like Josh is playing with a new cue stick to me. Don't recall that one in his hand, and he's got a nice thin angle on the 3. That's on purpose to try and run the cue ball onto the back side of the 4. Doesn't want to have to play a long combination on the 4-5. Here's all speed control. That should help the line of the cue ball. And this is going to be perfect.
He is a once-in-a-lifetime talent, this man, for me. The way he completed victory in the UK Open final in London. Behind in the final. And then suddenly found that wonderful burst, knocking in so many shots, running racks. Just ignoring the pressure.
And here early, I don't know if his previous 2 matches have anything to do with it, but really piecing this first rack together, not getting in that normal, you know, momentum around the table and kind of his groove. Maybe a little thinner than he wanted here, but shouldn't be a big deal. Just such a clean striker of the cue ball. Such a talent. I mean, I gotta believe the players in the snooker side of things are glad he's a pool player, not a snooker player.
Filling up the pockets. It was tactical to start, got his chance and ran the table. It's remarkable to me, Joshua Filler's 2022. Let me just break it down for you. He's played in 18 tournaments and he's finished in the top 10 in every single one of them. He's won the Bigfoot Challenge at the Derby City Classic. He won the European Championship straight pool event. Then that golden period when he won the Treviso Open, Whirlpool Masters and UK Open. And most recently, he's won the Slovenian Open on the European Tour. You can't keep him down.
No, he kind of defies a lot of what the game's about and what these players know, that it's so fickle and it can turn against you so quickly. You know, just set aside how many great players that can just beat you on their own. And Usually the pool gods will slow you down at some time or another, but maybe kind of shows maybe why, you know, when it's all said and done, Josh Filler might be up there as one of those pool gods.
He's second on the live 9-ball ranking at the moment going into 2023. And if he were to prevail here, he would be number 1.
Yeah, and this is really where he makes his dollars over everyone else. Long term, he just buries those more often than anyone else. And of course, I got to him again there. And now Masato with a good chance on a cross-side bank. Natural position coming around the 7 and the 3.
That might be the key to US Mosconi Cup success. Set up a faux commentary box and just praise Joshua Filler every time he's down at the table and he'll miss.
Yeah, I think we're doing it wrong in the stands at the Mosconi. Should praise him a little more rather than pulling against him. All right, a little bit of a fluke there. Cue ball wasn't near what he wanted. Of course, the 2 wasn't exactly perfectly struck. Good thing the 9 was there. Otherwise, it wasn't going. And now a little thin and stretched, using the crutch. Looks like with just a straight high ball, he goes between the 6 and 9, couple rails up into the break box area for the 4 on the side.
He's bound to be nervous, Yoshioka. Big occasion for him. Not just with the carrot of trying to reach the last 64 here, but to do so at the expense of one of the game's biggest names. But as we've said before, and he plays that shot nicely with bundles of English, he has played a number of matches in Matchroom events, centre stage, so this isn't a new experience for him. Filler malfunctioned. The potting machine was way off on that one from distance that allowed Yoshioka to the table. And the Japanese World Cup player has capitalised. He equalises at 1 rack each. Now let me give you some latest scores from all of the different rounds that are being played at the moment. Well, I can tell you losers round 2 is now over. All of the matches in that have been completed. Tyrrell Blowers beat Ronaldo Dendari Arena 8-6. Alan Rollon Rosado beat Rick Miller 8-4. Robert Frost came through 8-5 against Matt Cryer. And Josh Roberts, an 8-7 winner over Tommy Taka Koji. So losers round 2 is now in the books. Kenny Donald also a winner there over Jamal Usi. At the end of this rack, I'll give you the latest scores in the bunch of winners' qualification matches that are going on.
And I'll tell you, that's twice that Masato has not made the one, but he did make the corner ball there, so that's very dangerous. If you get a player that is making the corner ball, now they can start to maybe play position on the one with the break. Now it's a cut, so the cue ball's a little bit, hard to determine what's going to happen all the time, but that could be a very dangerous remedy or mixture, rather, for an upset here in this match. If he can put some racks together, and he's going to have to, because he's not going to have those misses from filler. I mean, we got the one in the last rack, but it wouldn't be hard to bet you don't see another open miss from filler in this match. Pretty perfect here, just to come out for the 5 in the side. Very open center of the table, so if he has to run the cue ball a little bit off the 5 to the 6, shouldn't be a problem. Traditionally, through the years, most of the Japanese players keep the game very simple. Don't try to do a whole lot with the cue ball. Pretty easy here. He can go to the top rail if he wants, which is what I recommend. Could have maybe drew it over, but it's very natural here. And taking that extra time, even on these simple shots, you get into your own flow a little bit. Masato, not a real fast player, not anything like Oi in that regard. He's okay now. Can the 8 over the side, so just take a little cut shot on the 7, come across. The 9 not pinned away on a rail anywhere, so when you come across off the 7, just make sure you stay off the rail with the cue ball. Really hard to have a problem if you do that.
Caught that a hair thick, but it wasn't enough to prevent the ball going in.
Yeah, it did cost him getting straight on the 8, though, to where I don't think he can do a whole lot with the cue ball besides just draw it back and take the cut on the 9, which is what he should do. Thought he wanted more than that out of the cue ball, but that's okay. Again, realizing you're a huge favorite.
Again, that 9 ball wiped its feet, but it dropped, and Yoshioka has a surprise 2-1 lead. Now let me rattle through these other scores in winners' qualification. Jovan Bustamante 2-1 up on the defending champion Carlo Biardo. Robbie Capito 4-2 up on Jason Shaw. Daniel Guttenberg 2-0 up on his fellow Austrian Max Lechner. Jonas Suto Camino 5-2 up on Mieszko Fortunski. Wojciech Chevchik 3-2 against Lee Van Corteza. Jesus Atencio, keep your eye on him, 6-2 up on Gregory Hogue. It's 5-3 now for David Alcady over Chris Melling. Besar Spahiu 3-1 up on Dennis Grabber. Abdullah Al Yusuf has a 3-2 lead over Vergara of the Philippines. Eklund Kachi 2-0 up. So too Fedor Gorsht over Hunter Lombardo.
Again, making the corner ball. So if you feel confident making the corner ball, which is something our new break rule is definitely not like it was before, a very high percentage. You can start to put the 1 in a position a little bit Maybe put a few racks together. He's got to cut this one thin, spin off the 8 a couple rails maybe, but then the pink 4 would be a problem getting position on the 2. Now the one thing, he could just cut this with a high ball, take the longer shot on the 2 ball. Problem I have with that is, what's the 8 gonna do if he hits it with a high ball coming up into the 6? So we'll see. Can't quite tell how he's cueing the ball here, but we can tell after the shot's over with, or after it's struck. He did play it with the inside. The 8's clearing. I think it's clearing. It looks like it. So probably pulls this cue ball underneath the 3 and to our right side, his left side of the 3, to play it in the same pocket as the 2. Little nervy shot from some distance. Could come 2 rails above and cut the 3. Kind of on the line the cue ball's on now, but much closer. Well, it's a pretty comfortable stroke. And a good sign for Masato Yoshioka. Needs to stay off the rail with the cue ball. Yeah, you keep hitting them thick. He had the 7 ball that fell in the last rack. The 9 was definitely not that clean. Keep doing it, though. One of them's going to hang, Phil.
Yeah, with Pierre Filler looking on there, Joshua Filler's wife, she'll be delighted that stayed on the table. Thought for a moment it might be a little bit like Johan Chua's pot to that same pocket in our first match, which dropped in after a delay. Now, though, Filler, for all intents and purposes, should make it 2-2.
Yeah, if he's straight here, though, he's going to have to shoot the 6 from some distance, it looks like. And he's going to try and just get it a little bit to the left, just a little. Yeah, you saw that, trying to masse it. Little bounce of the cue ball.
Yeah, he's such a good potter, though, isn't he? You can't imagine him missing this. Having said that, though, he has erred already in the match.
Yeah. Just so strong at what is the most essential part of any pool game, and that is pocketing the ball. Super straight stroke. Like I said, a very distinct and clean strike of the cue ball. You can almost turn your head and can tell it's Filler when he strikes that ball.
So there it is, 2-2. Yoshioka had a chance to go 3-1 ahead, but he missed the 3 ball, caught it too thick, and Filler did the rest. Now let me catch you up with some results and some scorelines from losers round 3. Corey Jewell going home, beaten 8-7 by Joe Spence from Canada. In the matches that are going on in losers round 3 at the moment, Pius Labutis from Lithuania, 6-2 up on Michael Olak from Poland. Jose Alberto Delgado, 3-2 up on Tony Burton. And on table 4, Billy Thorpe, 4-2 up on fellow American Michael Jednak.
Yeah, I talked with Billy this morning just a little bit and said he's feeling good. Just, again, still somewhat getting his feet wet after a little time off from the game. And now I think he can see this 1 ball. Don't really know what he can do from that upper corner with the cue ball. I guess he can make it. Thought the 6 had him cut off a bit. Looks like naturally comes across at the 2 with the cue ball. Oh, he's playing the safety. Trying to avoid the kiss there on the cue ball. Bringing the cue ball down to the bottom rail. So he didn't have the entire side of the 1 to be able to shoot at it. Definitely was trying to get the one between the 7 and 5 and the cue ball down on the bottom. Nothing easy here, though, going into a small side pocket, and he has to work the rock. Yeah, a lot of body movement on that one. Awkward cueing to a half a pocket on the 1. Should be the 1-4 here for Josh, unless he decides to play a safety behind the 4.
I thought for a moment the cue ball might sneak in behind the green 6, but it cleared that, and he's keeping things tight.
And I tell you, the aura or the mood in the room still hasn't changed, in my opinion. All business, it feels like. Okay, you got to make sure it doesn't spread long in between the 6 and the 1. Oh, he's knocked this right in. He's going to get snookered, but probably very happy to be at the table. He's got a bit of a kick and stick on the side rail here, one that the guys judge pretty well. Going to the long rail with a little low left spin, trying to hit the 2 fully, hold the cue ball behind the 3-9. He's coming to the top rail. Nothing wrong with that, but the problem with this shot is it's all speed control, because you're not going to add really that side spin from this distance at a light speed. That's why I kind of like the kick to the side rail a little bit better. I feel like the problem with this one is you're not ever giving up, you're not separating the ball, so you have to get the snooker or else you're going to be in a world of hurt. Wow, what a nice shot.
Philip played the percentages by laying the snooker, and yet he's got nothing to show for it apart from a world of hurt.
I don't think Filler played the wrong shot, just part of it. But that is another reason why the guys, when they're on the fence, they'll stay very aggressive, usually. Filler's surprised that came short. He was trying to aim to guard against the ball going long, which is the common problem.
So far, at least, Jeremy, not the Filler fireworks we've come to expect.
It's going to be harder. I mean, like I said, a lot of things work against that a little bit. Getting these guys that are, you know, half a level to a level below him on the professional ranks, and however you look at that level, just trying to label it, so don't take it personal. But, you know, they're getting more time at the table because of the rule. They're, you know, getting a little more comfortable with themselves, improving all the time. You know, and then again, the rule itself is going to slow Filler down at times. But one thing is, you know, we say any mistake is so magnified because of how great the guys are, but also a race to 9 is still, you know, if you ask the guys, still a little bit short in their opinion, maybe. Nothing wrong with it for the tournament, but they'd all like to win this qualification round because it does go to a race to 11, and that's huge, at least mentally. No problems here, just a little draw stroke over. Doesn't have to get straight on the 7. Actually prefer not to. Doesn't want to get super thin, of course, and that'll do.
helped by a little bit of good fortune. Then, laying a telling snooker, Masato Yoshioka leads Joshua Filler by 3 racks to 2. Yoshioka trying to become, together with Naoki Oi, who will take on Karol Skaversky shortly over on table 6. They're trying to become the first ever Japanese winner of the US Open. Japan's produced world 9-ball champions in the past, but winning the US Open, that will be a step into new territory.
Well, I think they have a couple runner-ups in the US Open, if I remember correctly. I think, trying to remember exactly who, but I think Earl Strickland in his last win at the US Open. Oh, hit me. Did he defeat Okamura in the final, was it? Think of it here in a moment. It had to be 2000?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Takeshi Okamura. Strickland beat him 11-5.
Was that in 2000, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I remembered all that, to be honest with you. I did watch that final, and possibly because Okamura, I was a big fan, super nice guy, great player, and, you know, like many, once Earl made the final, he was just a hard guy to beat. 7 boys trying to play the 7. That's got to go a bit. All right, he's gotten it down. And he had to hit it easy to try and hold some shot on the 1, using a little left spin, kind of manipulate the 7 in the hole. A funny positional shot onto the 2. The 1 does go on the side by the 5. The 2 does not. But the cue ball's going away from the 2 a little bit. I think it's going a little bit more 1 rail towards the 6. So could cue this with a little inside. He could draw to the side rail, in rail, back up towards the 2. I think that's what he's doing. This may kill a little bit off the bottom rail and give him a little longer shot on the 2 than he really wanted. Like, right, watch this. I'm not going to bounce a ton. Still a pretty clean effort and good decision.
I think this shot will tell us a lot. So far, so good.
Yeah, and he's very settled, or getting more settled, let's say, because a lot of players would have, you know, tried to stay away from a long 2 ball like that. And what I mean is rolling it. They'd have been much more satisfied or comfortable drawing the ball back for the 4 in the same pocket. So I think Josh, you know, with some chances, I think he's got his hands full here. Very easy on the eyes. The stroke from Masato. Very calm delivery, which under pressure I think is a big plus on his side of things.
He's not merely a player on the international scene, he's also a renowned coach in Japan. And right now he's practicing what he preaches. He leads Joshua Filler unexpectedly, but deservedly, 4-2. Let's give you some more winner qualification rounds scores. Carlo Biardo and Jovan Bustamante, 3-3. Alex Pagulayan has taken the first from Raul Suke. Jason Shaw now back on level terms against Robbie Capito at 4-4. Daniel Guttenberg has made a good start against Max Lechner at 3-1. Jonas Suto Camino and Mieszko Fortunski 5-5. There you can see Jesus Atencio from Venezuela on the hill against Gregory Hogue. And David Alcade gaining control against Chris Melling at 7-3.
Okay, didn't make that corner ball. That's the problem if you're not playing the one as much, which I'm not saying he's not, but it's been more of the corner ball for Masato so far in this match, barely missing there. And a lot of times when you miss it just kind of naturally off the rack, it gets a little kiss by the pocket. You end up making that corner ball anyways. But now Josh with an open table, everything does play, and a great starter on the one, so you know what we expect from here. He'd like that cue ball off the cushion, though. The one place he does need to work is a little bit making sure he can get to that 4 ball at the top of your screen. And he's perfect now. He maybe draws this back, maybe where it's at. Cue ball, maybe 4 or 5 inches. He just stayed there. Took a little more angle on the 4 than I thought he would. Shouldn't be a problem. I guess the 5 didn't go. That's why he kept the angle on the 4 that he did, and that makes much more sense to me. Just looking at the monitor, I thought for sure the 5 passed. You can see the way Josh cues the ball. Left-handed player, left eye dominant. You see it quite the opposite a lot of times.
The break of Yoshioka did not work. Joshua Filler stepped in and with one delightful positional shot opened up everything, and now he's back within 1 at 4-3. Another good contest here on table 1, as it was in our opening affair of the day when Ko Pin-Yi defeated Johan Chua 9-7. It's going to be like that from now on, because all of the top players, barring a very few exceptions, are still battling away in this US Open, and we're going to see some titanic tussles over the next 4 days. Everything going well for Fedor Gorsh, though, not troubled in the slightest yet by Hunter Lombardo. The Russian leads 4-0, as does Eklund Kachi over Duong Quoc Huang from Vietnam.
Well, he's missed the one. He's given up a shot. Nothing easy. Of course, some distance and the 2 covered up. So I think he attacks, trying to draw the cue ball and produce something on the 2, but not an easy starter here at all. And nothing easy as far as a safety. So maybe he just ices the 1, doesn't really try to move the cue ball, and just play the safety on the 2. That's a smarter shot. You know, this is tournament format. You can't afford to get, you can't get games back. So you can't afford silly mistakes. I think that's a smart play. Don't take much chance trying to draw the ball into something that's not guaranteed on the 2. So again, just ice the 1, hold the cue ball, and then move on from there. Really nice shot, especially putting the 2 near the 7. Cut off the 2 rail kick, which is the one the players like to use in this situation. Now Josh has got to go 1 rail at it. Now I would go with a little speed here, trying to bump, because if he does hit the 2, the 2 should go up table. So there is a tricky little soft roll on the 2 to where you may get a snooker behind the 7, but I think much better to try and put a little speed on this. Yeah, just the 2 is always going to go up table if you do make solid contact. So smart shot there from Filler.
What a shot that is. No position, but you can't wish for everything. Look at this for an escape. In the end, the perfect contact on the 2, and in it goes.
I'll tell you, beautiful kick shot again on the 2, but doing exactly what he needs to do. You know, you got to remind Filler sometimes he's in a battle. Sometimes he likes to be the only guy that seems like they're in the match. And okay, he's going to drop to the bottom rail with the cue ball. He's going to size up a 3-6 that I don't think will get shot at. I think it's going to be some type of clip off the left side of the. The good thing about this, if he clips the left side of the 3, tries to use the 6 to hold the 3 and go up table with the cue ball, the 7 should cover up the pocket for the 3, I believe. So he doesn't have totally free reign going up table with the cue ball, but he can definitely have a little security in mind. Yeah, and there you just make the decision, am I going to the rail to cut off part of the cue ball, or am I trying to float behind the 4? The 7 did cut off the offensive shot. Would have much rather had him on the rail with the cue ball, though. That way side spin or draw or any of those other types of way to strike the ball aren't available. Looks like to me he can bank the 3 between the 4, 5, and 6 and drop the cue ball maybe 1 rail behind the 8. That looks like a very doable shot to me. Not easy, but doable. He could cross the 3 over, hitting what would be his right side of the 3, letting the 3 just bank off the right side rail and let it roam towards the spot, just come straight back down the table with the cue ball. I wouldn't get too complex with this one. Looks to me he's trying to stun the ball around the 7 maybe. And again, as long as you're making Filler feel like he's in a battle, you're doing your job.
course, the double kiss had to be avoided, and it wasn't.
I think most of the players can be pretty honest with themselves, saying in a long-term setting, hard for me to keep up with filler, you know, running racks and knocking balls in. Not saying the guys don't do it at a very high level themselves, but tactically that's still a position that a lot of players will be very confident in against filler. You know, just like right here, you know, laying the cue ball down, didn't quite get there, but he played the object ball nice.
Just a few seconds ago, Billy Thorpe has progressed on the loser's side, beating Michael Jednak 8-3.
Could get a little action on the 9 here. He came across it the other way. This is going to work out for filler. Don't think very intended to get the snooker that way, but or partial snooker.
The second man into the last 64, Jesus Atencio, who's defeated Gregory Hogue 9-4.
Yeah, going for the jump shot here just because he doesn't see any safety off that little bit of the 3 he can see. Josh is going to get that opening.
An opening where the ball's really open. Another result for you. David Alcady has defeated Chris Melling 9-4. Again, winners qualification match, that one.
Yeah, and Melling was up 3-1 before losing 7 out of 8 games. And I kind of hope for Melling's sake that he didn't really have that many chances. He's got to move on and try and win another match to qualify. And that can, you know, if you had chances in that spot right there, it can kind of, you know, lean on into that next match. So here, filler should be okay. Looks like Shane Wolford kind of pulled out a little bit against Ko Ping Chung.
I was keeping that result back, wondering whether you were going to realize that Shane was 6-3 up.
Yeah, I've got my phone working, trying to keep up with the scores. Really, just for this event alone, they should have me a little monitor on all the tables so I can sweat it. Oh, this is a little light with the cue ball. No, it's going to be all right.
This is not a cavalcade. This is not a procession that we sometimes see from Joshua Filler in early rounds. He's been given quite a tough task at the moment by Masato Yoshioka, and so no doubt he's relieved, having fallen 4-2 adrift, to be back on level terms at 4-4. Some other scores from winners qualification. Daniel Guttenberg 3-2 up on Max Lechner. Jason Shaw and Robbie Capito going toe-to-toe 5-5. In the battle of the veterans, Alex Pagulayan 3-0 up on Ralph Souquet. The title holder, Carlo Biardo, being held to 4-4 by Jovan Bustamante.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, that Ralph Souquet and Alex Pagulayan, that was a formal final match here at the U.S. Open. Almost 20 years ago, and maybe it was 20 years ago. (2002) maybe?
Exactly 20 years ago. Your memory's excellent, Jeremy. Yeah, Souquet came through 13-11. That was when the tournament was played at its longtime venue, the Chesapeake Conference Center in Virginia.
Yeah, I remember watching that match. I actually left the event a little early. Had to watch it back home. I think at that time it was DirecTV pay-per-view, actually. Is this going to come clear? I think Josh had the concerned look that I had there for a moment. It's okay now. Of course, Alex Pagulayan, who got beat in that final, went on to win the U.S. Open just a few years later. And I'd have to think about it a little more, but I think they were only the second and third non-Americans to win the event at that time, with Efren being the first non-American. Now, I could be wrong there. I don't believe there was another foreigner to win it before Efren.
Well, in 1988, Michael LeBron won it, but he's from Puerto Rico, so that's American territory.
And he resides in Philadelphia, longtime Spanish Mike. So, actually, he was the oldest player to win it, I believe, Mike was.
Joshua Filler, when he prevailed 3 years ago, was one of the youngest, and he's now in front in this match at 5-4. I can give you a latest result from the loser's side. Pius Labutis from Lithuania has beaten Michael Olak from Poland 8-2. So lots and lots of matches going on, Jeremy, at the moment. Everywhere you look, there's interesting action.
Yeah, some will look at it like a survival kind of thing, and then others will look at it like, you know, today's setting me up to win the event, getting me in the spot I want to be in. And really the pressure matches today a little bit more so, a little more competitive, a little more what they can look for as days go on in this event. Well, what's the one ball hanging on to? And this is one of the most difficult shots, coming from a very full angle on a ball that's hanging very deep, and when it's hanging very deep on one side of the pocket. If it's in the center, you can kind of draw your cue ball out of there, feeling somewhat accurate anyways. Yeah, he's got to maybe just kind of turn it loose a little bit here. I know that sounds crazy, professional turning it loose on a shot like this, but it's very hard to determine how it's going to come off the point. So what I would like to do is, again, just not get snookered on the two, even if I didn't come away with the best shot on the two. But if he's really looking for that gap between the 4 and 6, boy, that's dangerous. Hard for me not to come up the left side of the table some kind of way.
Yeah, that one ball really is deep, almost defying gravity.
Yeah, the overhead that they showed a moment ago really will show you how deep it is. It's almost like it looks like half the ball, over half the ball's off the slate, which cannot be the case, obviously. But, you know, if the cue ball's down by the head string, right, just move it that little, a foot down the table. Going rail first to the bottom rail, you know, you can somewhat judge that. But from this angle, rail first on the bottom rail, you might whiff the entire ball. He's just got to take a chance here, I think. Well, that was always the play. He made it look easy, of course, with that straight stroke and beautiful cueing, but I don't think he got there. Actually, Josh kind of knows that when you, from a full angle, again, if you get into the ball, it doesn't want to bounce off the rail much. It just kind of hugs a little bit. I guess he can get at this still, but
I tell you what, in this rack, he's living dangerously.
Yeah, well, he had to swerve that ball. That's why the cue ball came with right English towards the 9. It's because he was partially hooked. Again, another bread and butter for him, though. And top right English here to the top rail and the right side rail and down. Looks like the right play. Kind of a little funny here. He's going to have to draw the cue ball, it looks like, back where he's standing. One thing I've seen from Josh, he's not getting the easy cue ball movement that I'm used to seeing. A little shy, it seems, in a lot of places. Type of shot that can kick on you a little.
Yes, there's no doubt that the usual filler mastery of the white isn't quite there yet. But he has won 4 racks in succession, and from being 4-2 down against Masato Yoshioka, one of the great favourites for this title, now leads 6-4. 3 more needed. Defending champion Carlo Biardo behind against Jovan Bustamante at 5-4. Fedor Gorst 5-1 up on Hunter Lombardo. Besar Spahiu, the Albanian number 2. He's going nicely in this winter qualification round against Estonia's Dennis Grabber. It's 3-3 between Torsten Homan and the veteran player from Singapore, To Lian Han. Lee Van Corteza 6-4 down to Wojciech Szewczyk, and Jonas Suto Camino from Spain on the hill against Mieszko Fortunski at 8-5. And Jason Shaw now maybe just gaining control on table 25 against Robbie Capito. Shaw leads 6-5.
Yeah, I can see that Shaw's at the table as well. 2's not going to come open for a shot, so we're going to have a bit of a tactical game here to start in rack number 11. I'll tell you, impressed with Comino, right? Just you can see the talent. I think he's still maturing, but had a big lead in that match. He got level at 5 apiece, and now he stretched it back out to 8-5. But you got to believe more of the Spanish players are coming with such 2 great leaders like FSR and David Alcady.
Yeah, not just 2 great leaders on the table, off it as well. You couldn't wish to meet 2 nicer gentlemen.
Yeah, they keep you positive. I mean, even if you aren't their countrymen, they're always positive, always have something nice to say. True acquisitions to our sport in so many ways.
While he's thinking here, Shane Walford has got another rack. He's 7-4 up on Ko Ping Chung.
Well, I think I talked about it before, that at the beginning of the tournament, that Shane didn't have the results he wanted the last two or three big events. Played some solid matches, but had some disappointments. I think he's trying to regroup, get a little better at things, and understand that that's going to happen in professional pool.
So here, Filler pushes out.
And what Filler's done here is he's really made a decision here for Masato. Do I go for the long rail bank? Do I have enough of the 2 ball to squeeze him up behind the 7? Certainly can't pass this. If he passes this, I think that's a huge mental error. And either way, if he went for the long rail bank, it sits so nice. I wouldn't blame him. I think he's going to lean more towards trying to get the cue ball up behind the 7. A lot of right spin, letting the 2 just float to the right side rail. see. I don't like rolling the bank, though. I want to give it a good chance to go. I want to shoot it with a little conviction. Yeah, he did that for sure. Wasn't his best effort overall. Kind of came up off the shot again quickly. One good thing about going aggressive, though, Phil, you can get lucky.
Indeed, just a matter here of whether he's left a gap.
Yeah, you can definitely see it. Speed control is important. It's close. Miller doesn't seem too unhappy, but it's definitely not buried up underneath that 7 like he maybe had in mind. Has he pulled out the short cue here? I think so. Now, nothing wrong with going for the make with the 3 over the side pocket. Definitely a reward there, most likely. But also nothing wrong with trying to bang this around the table. Maybe bring the cue ball over near the 8 or behind the 8. Got a lot of good things that can happen with that shot as well. Forget about it, Phil. He said, I'm just going to knock this in, and what a shot.
He's been responsible for several cracking shots so far, Yoshioka, and arguably that's the best of the lot.
Yeah, here, I don't know if I dig into the cue ball. He's a little thin off of that ball, so maybe just top right English. Use your talent to just coast the cue ball in for position on the 4 in the lower left. If he digs down on it, it could get away from him, would be my worry. But he could level out as much as possible shooting over the 6. He's going to dig on this now, so could get a little steep on the 4. Not bad. Still not out of the woods. Can't afford the wrong angle on the 5. Needs to be a little bit above the 5, maybe straight on the 5. Anything falling underneath the 5 going away from the 6 could pose a big problem. We saw a shot similar earlier in our match. I think it was Chua. Or no, I think it was actually Koping-Yi, to where he kind of overhit the ball a little bit, didn't allow the draw to take. Same thing here. If he overhits this, could catch the 9 before the draw actually kind of starts to take and cause a lot of problems. See, this is the thing. Now he's a little on the wrong side of the 5, trying to get on the 6. May have to use the 9 here. I may have considered dropping below the 5 a little bit because it does go in that left side pocket. So he's going to add a lot of spin here. Try and bump the 9 and spin back across. Watch out for the lower right-hand corner with the cue ball. Didn't really add much spin. Smart shot. Bigger crowds, and definitely a crowd around that Shaw Capito match over there as it's tightening up, getting near the end.
And this could be tightening up also. Yoshioka refusing to surrender. Sticking with it, staying stubborn.
Yeah, he'll come 2 rails most likely to the center of the table for the kiss shot on the 9, glancing off the right side of the 8. I would rather be a little more on the right side of the table than the left. Center of the table isn't necessary, but if you overhit this, yeah, that's why you see him say, slow down, slow down. That kiss shot can get very funny if he gets a little bit on the left side of the table. I would have probably stayed a little more on the right myself, but it's all preference on how you like to hit the kiss shot. Usually kiss shots can be played a few different ways.
That was played the correct way. And so Yoshioka trails by only 1 again at 6-5. Some of the big names here are toiling this afternoon. Jovan Bustamante now leads the defending champion Carlo Biardo 6-4. The great Ralph Souquet 4-1 down to Alex Pagulayan. Jason Shaw and Robbie Capito 7-6. These are all matches in the winners' qualification round. Daniel Guttenberg 4-3 up on Max Lechner. Slow contest, that one. Jonas Suter Camino did complete victory over Mieszko Fortunski at 9-5. Wojciech Szewczyk is 7-4 up on Lee Van Corteza. And Bessar Spahiu 7-5 up on Dennis Grabber. One final one, Shane Walford on the hill against Ko Ping Chung 8-5.
And another dry break. Now, I think he is kind of relying on the corner ball, to be honest with you. Now the 5 has got near the pocket, kind of lays funny on the point. I think he's going to go for the kiss shot. Maybe a double kiss on the 5. Cross banking the 1, maybe. Yeah. It's always going to be hard to hold a real clean shot on the 1, but Josh kind of figured, let me bury this little kiss shot and play from there. Really a nervy shot, too easy to follow the cue ball in behind that 5.
Again, treating his opponent with every respect.
Yeah, and the complexion of the game has improved so much. It's not always going to be like this every game, but you got to love seeing the tactical side of things and really how great these players are. I think that's a big part of it. We're getting to see more of the game and more from these players battling for that first shot. Looks like Oscar Dominguez has just started his match to try and get through to that final 64 undefeated. Now what's Josh do here? He may go for this 1-9 trying to run the cue ball. He could make this 9 off the 7. And the only reason I say that is it's got just as much safety element as anything else I see. He could roll the 1 trying to get him on top of the 9, but from that distance and elevated, I think that's asking a lot. That looks like what he's going to do. He's going to roll the ball. Could easily give up a shot here. Oh, what a touch.
Yes, he'll be overjoyed with that one.
Two-rail kick here is pretty big ball to hit at. You have a big pocket with the 6. Definitely fluke this in. And the reason why you like the two-rail kick, if you're comfortable with it, is that separates the 1 and cue ball. Cue ball should go up the table while the 1 remains somewhat on the bottom bottom end of the table.
Got to tell you this, Jeremy. Shane Walford has beaten Ko Ping Chung 9-5. What a result that is for him.
He went one rail, almost buried it. He's going to give up a shot, it looks like. A rail first now. Josh has got to contend. If he puts some speed on this, he's got to worry about the 7 and the 9. Great effort here from Masato. Yeah, he's a little worried, I know. And this is where the long-term Josh Filler really shows up. These 50-50 balls.
You know, Jeremy, you said something earlier which really rung true, and I couldn't agree with more. Yes, there are different facets to the game of pool, but the most golden asset is the ability to pod balls, and he's got that in abundance.
Yeah, and, you know, I unfortunately didn't get to see some of the older guys that I heard about, but the generations that I have been fortunate enough to see, Josh is going to be in the conversation of who did that the best ever. And, you know, you got some of those other guys that are going to be in that conversation that are in this tournament as well. But it's got to be something special to know that you're a favorite anytime you're cueing the ball.
We saw the pod success rate there of 98%. That's pretty much the norm for him.
Yeah, that's about the norm for the long ones, really.
And it gives him a cushion of 2 racks at 7-5. So 2 more needed.
Well, it's just amazing how you look at some of the upper echelon players that Masato has played one heck of a match, in my opinion, has fought incredibly hard. Now, he trails by 2 games, but he's got to look at it like this. He's done all this to put himself in position to steal the match, and that's all you can do as an underdog. You know, and these guys, of course, are underdogs to Filler, but it's not crazy if Filler makes, a couple of mistakes that he gets beat. But just like any other sport, you get a chance to sneak in there late and steal the match, maybe from a mistake from Filler, maybe from a bad roll, or just something great that Masato does. But don't give up. A lot of guys would be like, man, I'm playing really well and I'm still trailing by 2 games. You're exactly where you need to be to try and win this match.
This hasn't been A+ Filler. But one thing I've really enjoyed, the attitude. His shot selections. He's not becoming exasperated by the bittiness of the exchanges. He's here on a mission. It's quite clear.
Well, I think, Josh, as honest as he is in the interviews, he's probably more honest with himself, knowing that, things have changed a little bit. There's going to be a little bit more of these types of matches, especially as the event goes on when you're facing the better players. I think this is the correct challenge here, or correct push out, trying to challenge Masato. Has leaned a few of them in at times, and nothing easy here, and he can't pass it. That's the thing. That's where Josh knows that whether Masato plays safe, whatever he goes offensive, whatever it is, he cannot give it back to Josh Filler. That's the big mistake. I don't feel like he's playing safe, though. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now Josh will come up and down the table. He may go into the 5 here with the cue ball. if he would have gotten the snooker, but definitely would have left a lot less of a shot if the cue ball would have gotten by that side. And this is the shot I looked at going into the purple 5. And when you're going into a ball, right, trying to hold, that's when you don't baby it as much. Get a clean contact because you're going into the ball anyways trying to hold the cue ball. Now, he didn't do so there. But a lot of guys or players will still ease the ball and really lose accuracy, sometimes missing that kind of one ball. Not understanding I'm using the 5 anyways.
And he can't complain there because had he caught that point a little more sharply, he would have been hooked.
Yeah, absolutely, and he can get back to what he does. If not better than anyone on the planet, it's arguably better. Oh, nice shot there. Got a lot out of the cue ball as well. And now in prime position to get himself to the hill.
Yeah, this was smooth as silk, this 2-ball. Lovely stuff.
Just wants to drop below the 4 a little bit, or at least straight in, I think anyways. He could play off of it and draw the ball, but most players would try to get at least straight in, maybe a hair below it. Now, he got quite a bit below it, so he may run the cue ball up for the 5 in the side or the lower left corner. He may check the cue ball, we'll see. Decide to check it. Big match coming up later. Of course, I can't wait to watch Tyler Steyer and SVB. Tyler played some really great matches this year where he didn't quite shut the door at the end of the match. Really deserved the win. And I hope he's not thinking about that too much, really, but I expect him to be right there in it.
This is good stuff. Joshua Filler now on the hill, leading by 8 racks to 5. And when you consider Masato Yoshioka was 4-up at one point, we thought maybe a shock could be brewing. Now that's gone into the rear view mirror. It's still a possibility, but the way things have gone, you have to say unlikely.
Yeah, probably unlikely. I mean, Josh seems pretty comfortable now. I think the missed 3 ball early. I don't know if you remember that ball in the corner that Masato missed. I think to take a 3-game lead, maybe it was a 3 ball in the lower left corner. He caught a little heavy and it hung.
Yeah, that was in the 4th rack. It was to take a 3-1 lead, but the theory of what you're saying holds up. It turned from there. Ball's going in all over the place here. And it's all about whether he can get through to the 1.
Yeah, he can get through to it. It's just a matter of how much of the 1 he can get at. He didn't seem too upset, but kind of feel like he's a little partially snookered at the offensive play. Yeah, Oscar Dominguez and Pelovanovic starting their match. I believe it's game 1 there.
Yeah, recently had a result on table 18. Besal Spahiu from Albania is through, beating Dennis Grabber 9-5. So Grabber goes on the 1-loss side. Spahiu puts his feet up and returns tomorrow.
Yeah, and Grabber was 3-1 ahead in that match, I think, early. Talked about not many people really discussing that name. And Josh can't afford to really roll out and challenge in this shot. Is he looking across the 1 and try and mildly go into the 2 and maybe put the 1 maybe below the 8 a little bit? This is super tough. May go for the cross corner bank here. going to get fortunate enough to get the one down below the 9. He banked it 3 rails inside the 8. I don't think that was his intention. He was just stuck in a spot.
Yeah, overall, if you're going to display any sense of fairness, you can't say Phil has been fortunate in this match. Yoshioka had a few very agreeable runs and rubs early on, but Phil, as Jeremy said, was fortunate with that specific shot.
Well, Masato, who's done everything pretty well tactically, has another kick shot here to get himself in a good position to maybe produce a shot here in a moment. And he's been right on with these. Really good. And Josh may go to the air here. I mean, the 2 rail kick's a little funny with the 2 ball being there. The side pocket's a little in the way of where you would naturally kick at this ball. So I think old Shorty's coming out, Phil.
While he walks around the table, let me tell you, Jason Shaw has defeated Robbie Capito 9-6. Eagle Eye soaring.
Yeah, and had to come from a little bit behind there. And that's one thing I see with Jason is his demeanor in those positions is so calm. You know, he knows he's a veteran. All he can do is wait for his opportunity. Wow. Oh, I thought he made it.
He looked down in disgust, but then, of course, the 8 ball came to do his bidding.
Yeah, well, Masato has buried at least 1 jump shot that I remember. He's going to have to go for another here, and most likely for his qualification life here on the winner side anyways. Kind of a 2-tone shaft there on that jump cue. Wow, sweet.
Hasn't he jumped well and kicked well?
Yeah, very well, and I can see why he's a sought-after coach in Japan. Very good so far on most everything, really. A little shaky a couple times, pocketing a few balls early. They kind of wobbled in, and he did have that miss on the 3, but really, I mean, win or lose in this match, he's got to be happy the way he's playing. And if he doesn't win this match, he can hopefully carry that on into his loser qualification round. But I'll tell you what, if he gets out here, well, that's got to slow down a little bit maybe. Okay, he's all right. If he gets out here and gets back to making that corner ball like he did at the beginning of the match, you know, dressing that one up in the corner, he could steal this from Joshua.
Calm and collected. Masato Yoshioka literally jumping back into the reckoning here. Joshua Filler, it looked as though he was on the verge of victory. He remains there. It's now 8-6. Anything could happen in the next 1, 2 or even 3 racks. Winners' qualification scores for you. Carlo Biardo and Jovan Bustamante 6-6. Alex Paguline 5-3 up on Ralph Suke. Max Lechner 6-4 up on Daniel Guttenberg. Wojciech Szewczyk just having a slight advantage over Lee Van Corteza at 7-6. Torsten Homan is on the hill against Tolian Han at 8-3. Abdullah Al Yusuf 6-5 up on Met Vergara. And Eklund Kachi, he's 7-5 up on Duan Kwok Huang, who's making a spirited fight back there. Also on the hill with a commanding lead, Fedor Gorsht, arguably the player of 2022. He's 8-2 up on Hunter Lombardo.
Yeah, well, no one's had more success on U.S. soil in 2022 than Fedor Gorsht. And said, you just can't replace all that match time, and the guy likes to play a lot anyways and lives and breathes it. Needs a big break here. Oh, this is Bustamante. That's a grind match over there. Now only at 7-6. Balls must be tying up after the break. Maybe not so many shots after the break now. Now he's got a nice clean one. And I think the 3 does pass the 7 in the upper left-hand corner. If not, a 3-7 combo is definitely playable.
On the loser's side on table 3, short time ago, Alexander Kazakis played some fluent pool. He broke and ran 4 racks in an 8-2 win over Zeemin Lee. And so the Greek player is still here, still surviving.
Well, I'll tell you, he's just a few matches away at certain tournaments this year, making some really deep runs. Got beat a hill match late in the World Pool Championships. I believe to Al Yusuf it was. That kept him out of a semifinal. So Kazak is just that rock, one of those rocks on tour that doesn't really falter much off of his game. Super consistent. Okay, there's that corner ball I was talking about. Now, is the one going to agree? It's not, along with the cue ball. So difficult situation here to start a very important game.
Filler's fellow German, Torsten Homan. He's partner in the World Cup of Pool this year. He's through. He's beaten Tolian Han 9-3.
Yeah, maybe you roll out and try and tie up the 2 on the back of the 9. You're going to surrender some type of shot on the 1. Doing so could get around behind the 4 for a jump shot, but hard to think Filler, if he's somewhat straight in on a jump shot, he's not going to take it. You know, you don't want to go down with no shot to win your match. And now he's looking in that position for something thin on the 1. And I'll tell you, I don't know how this always happens, but I turn my head and it seems like every tournament until he's in the final or semifinal, we just don't talk about the Austrian champion of Alban Ocean, right? He just kind of gets passed by for some reason, and meanwhile he's a top 5 player on the planet.
Yeah, he's under the radar, isn't he?
Yeah, he's rolled out a little too far here and snookered himself behind the 3, so an easy pass there from Joshua Filler. And maybe there's a, playing cards width on the right side of the 1 there, but from that distance, it's not something you'd want to bet on the hit. So he's going to be kicking to the top rail. Going to need a little fortune. Don't really see a kick shot he can really kind of play here.
Fedor Gorsht is through. 9-2. No alarms over Hunter Lombardo. So results being recorded thick and fast. But for Yoshioka, he wants to avoid a result in this rack. He wants to keep battling away, get to 8-7. Crank up the pressure on Joshua Filler.
Yeah, he'd love the one to come to the bottom rail and back up underneath. Yeah, like that. Man, how well has this guy kicked at the ball? If this surrenders a shot, it's really unfortunate. And it has. I'll tell you a guy that does get going on the one-loss side and quickly up 5-0 and Marco Tucher is Josh Roberts after a hill win in the last round. Watch out for the beast. He can get going on the one-loss side.
Well, the one's in. Nice little flick off the black 8 ball to be on the 2. And here, Jeremy, don't know whether you agree, the end could be nigh.
Yeah, my favorite one is it's curtains, Phil. And Josh isn't going to take it for granted, that's for sure, and neither should we, but he makes us kind of take these things for granted.
There was a wonderful cricket commentator who's recently retired back in the UK, David Lloyd. They call him Bumble. Absolutely brilliant behind the microphone. Can't speak highly enough of him. And his favourite when a match is coming to its conclusion, he used to say, "Start the car."
All right, a little light. He definitely wanted to guarantee that angle to come over, even though it wasn't totally necessary. He could play from above the 8 if needed. Now he's got to make a decision to definitely come over. He won't go back and forth here. He's got to float it in a bit. I wouldn't come across the side myself. But Josh, he doesn't mind it one bit. So he'll size up from underneath. Or is he just going to draw out of this? I think he stays underneath it. Oh, he drew the ball out. Okay. He's got to pay attention here. You know, not a ton of angle to easily move over and back. Still plenty there. I think that's what you're going to see him do. Go to that left side rail and then back out to the center of the table.
Well, Masato Yoshioka isn't going to start the car. He came here by plane, and if he loses, he's on the one-loss side anyway. But Joshua Filler is certainly getting into gear.
And now his place in that final 64.
And every time that Josh Filler records a win, it's ominous for the rest of the field. We've seen